Right, yeah, so it's been a few days now since our trip to Hunt's Corner. We made the long journey down from South Wales on the Friday morning, arrived at the lake. Conditions looked pretty good, it has to be said. We had a fairly stiff breeze blowing, southwesterlies, they were pumping down to our end of the lake. We had intermittent showers, a bit of sunshine. It looked pretty good, and yeah, we walked around with the barrow to our swim, had a little look in the edge, could see straight away that it was quite weedy. And then I thought, right, I'll take a boat and get the marker rod out and have a little bit of an investigation then out in the middle. So I set the marker rod up, had a few chucks into the middle, and yeah, I found gravel pretty much straight away. I think anyone who's fished Hunt's Corner before or knows Hunt's Corner will know that there's a gravel bar out there in the middle. Found that straight away and thought, right, I'm going to put rods on that. Bit of a no-brainer. I think it's what a lot of people do, so the fish are used to feeding on there. And it was about probably 12 or 1 o'clock. We'd been there for a few hours. A few fish started to show, and they were literally on the tree, under the trees on the far side. They were really, really tight to the far margin. So the gentleman came over who was fishing in Peg 1, a guy from Chesterfield. So if you ever watch this, it was nice to meet you, mate. Yeah, and he was in my swim when we were chatting about the fishing, and yeah, they were consistently showing on this far tree line. So I thought, right, I'm gonna have to whip one rod in at least and stick it on them. So I whipped it in, just hooked on a solid bag and just sent it straight to the other side. Considering how many fish were over there, yeah, I was fully expecting that rod to rip off. It didn't, and to be honest with you, I was in a bit of a conundrum then, because I didn't really want to fish to the far margin. I didn't want to push fish out of my swim. I wanted to fish roughly halfway or maybe 3/4, just to see if I could contain a few fish in my area. But the amount of fish that were showing on that far side, I just couldn't ignore it. So I did in the end stick a rod out there for the night. The evening passed quiet. I baited that gravel spot at about 9 wraps. Not too heavy, probably put about 10 spoms out for 2 rods, so fairly lightly. And I was hoping then that the fish would come on me in the evening. The night passed uneventfully, apart from the crayfish who were giving me the odd single beep. That morning bite period, nothing. It was around 9 or 10 AM. Fish started to show about 3/4 of the way across, which is different to the day before, where they were showing just really tight under the far trees. But yeah, on that Saturday morning, for whatever reason, there was one particular area 50 to 60 yards out where a group of fish were consistently showing, and when they were dropping back down, the patches of fizzing were coming up. So it was evident at that point that they were obviously dropping back down to the bottom and having a little feed on something. Not my bait, I hadn't baited there. I'm not sure whether it was previous angler or what, but yeah, I thought I'm gonna have to act on this. So I quickly whipped in my right hand rod, put on a fresh rig, a little mesh bag of pellets, and just sent it straight into that zone. And yeah, literally within 5 minutes, it absolutely melted off, and I was into my first Hunt's Corner fish and first fish of the session. As you can see in the footage, the fish absolutely beasted me. It was going on really long runs, staying quite deep. I could tell pretty much straight away that it was a decent fish, not, you know, nothing that was gonna break any PBs, but a nice fish. So anyway, yeah, it ran down to my right hand margin, and on the right of Peg 10 there's a bit of a snag in the water, and at this time of year there's pretty dense Canadian pondweed. So straight away I thought I could be in a bit of trouble. I was already in the water in my waders because my rods were in the water. So I quickly went round the tree, tried to get a bit of leverage to move it back out in front of me. Unfortunately that didn't happen, and the fish just buried headfirst into this dense Canadian pondweed. So I had no choice but to wade out into the swim and around the trees to try and get above it. Luckily I had my prodding stick with me, so I was able to test where the water was safe to wade. Otherwise it could have been, you know, a nasty accident. So yeah, luckily I could feel the fish was still on, because I could feel the rod pulsing every now and then. But as soon as I got directly above the fish, because it was just shallow enough for me to get directly above it, I felt it kick out the weed, and then it moved back out of the weed bed and into open water. So I played it there for a couple of minutes, and then eventually I was able to slip the net under the fish, which, yeah, as you'll see from the footage, I was absolutely elated. It's why we do the sport as carp anglers, as all anglers. There's no feeling like it when you slip the net under a fish that you so desperately want to catch. So yeah, it was a great feeling and a great moment for me and Emily. After we slipped that fish back, it was clear then that what my intention was going to be. I was going to stick rods. Certainly, I was going to stick rods in that area for the remainder of the morning, and then in the afternoon, give it a bit of an interrogation with a marker rod. I'm not sure whether it's surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the area was really soft. It was deep, probably around 12 to 14 foot deep, and it was going down with a really soft drop. And bringing the lead back, you could feel straight away that it was super smooth, indication of silt, I would say. So I'm more than happy to fish on the silt. I've done it plenty of times before, so yeah, I thought, right, I'm 100% going to fish that area in the night, because the fish were just confidently on it in the morning, and my plan and my hope was that the following morning on the Sunday the fish would be there in the same spot and we could capitalise even more on it. I put all 3 rigs on that area, baited lightly, only put a couple of spods on each spot, and kicked back, relaxed, had a takeaway with Emily, enjoyed the scenery, because Hunts Corner is a beautiful place, Oxford is a beautiful place. We just kicked back, relaxed, and let the evening drift into night. So that night passed fairly uneventfully until roughly around 4:45 in the morning. I had a single beep on the left-hand rod, which woke me, and then it went into absolute meltdown. The left-hand rod was just peeling line off, so quickly got into the waders, zipped the buoy door down, ran into the water and hit it. And to be honest with you, I thought it was a tench. It felt really, really light on the end, and it was quite erratic. So I played that for, it wasn't a very long fight to be honest, probably less than a few minutes. And it hit the surface and I could see it was a small carp, but a very, very heavily scaled carp. So yeah, a real stunner, one for the future, as they say. So I was happy with that, you know. I bagged another fish. I thought, right, if they're out there now in the area, I'll quickly get that rod back out, which I did. I then hooked the fish, sent it back out, did the pictures of the fish, etc. Slipped him back, and then went back into the sleeping bag in hope that I would get woken up again. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. That morning period passed quite quietly. I got back up around 7 AM. I was absolutely shattered, and yeah, made a coffee, watched the water to see if any signs of fish. But to be honest, it was very quiet compared to the morning before on the Saturday. There was nothing really showing. There was hardly any patches of fizzing, and it looked pretty devoid. And the sun rose really early, and you could tell it was going to be a hot day. I don't know, compared to the other 2 days, it just didn't look or feel like it was going to do a few bites. All of a sudden, a fish showed really short in my water, right directly in front of me, over my lines. It probably only about 5 or 6 wraps out. It showed, went back down, heavy patch of fizzing. I thought, oh, that's weird. And then said goodbye to my mate there, and then showed again. Not sure if it was the same fish. Showed again, same area. Again, fizzing. And then another one, and then another one, and there must have been about 10 shows in as many minutes. And I thought, oh, that's odd. You know, at this point I literally had probably 40 minutes left of the session, so you know, I was obviously whipped in the left-hand rod, fresh rig on, fresh piece of corn, fake corn, hooked on another mesh bag of pellets, and just literally with a light lead just flicked it. Only 5 or 6 wraps out right into that zone where those fish were showing and fizzing up. And I thought, right, there's so many fish in that area now, it's got to rip off. It's got to rip off. And yeah, I was literally midway through packing my bivvy down, just taking the pegs out, just folding the bed chair up, and my receiver just ripped off. Honestly, it was going into absolute meltdown. It was ripping line, and flew out to the middle of the lake, and I was just holding deep. So I thought, right, here we go, it could be a decent fish right at the end of the session, happy days. So played it in, picked up my right hand rod, which was a bit annoying, but managed to get around that, and then eventually we slipped the net under that fish, and yeah, you'll see the footage now. It was a lovely fish, and my reaction pretty much shows how I personally feel about carp fishing, and how nice it was just to winkle that last goodbye fish out.
Yes!
Nice 21-pound mirror, just caught this morning, literally as we were packing away, so it's a nice little send-off. Now they're slipping back. So yeah, after we slipped that fish back, it was well, it was the end of the session then. We probably had around 10 minutes left of our allocated time. I didn't really fancy doing the day. We had to get back, I had to make the fairly long journey back to South Wales. So I just whipped in the rods, we packed away the gear, and went back to the van. And yeah, pretty much wrapped up that session. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Means a lot. Thanks to all the subscribers and everyone who's liking the videos. I'm hoping to take this channel a bit further now, with the help of my girlfriend, who's very talented in this field. I'm hoping to get out now in the next couple of weeks. If not, I'm definitely going to be out in July, and I'll definitely be filming. So if I don't see you until then, thank you again, and tight lines.